Hey guys, welcome back to Holistic Homesteading with the Hursts. I'm Megan. Follow along with me today as I make a meal from scratch for us and some guests. So I actually started this a couple of days before our guests were here because I wanted some whipped cream. So this whipped cream is going to go on top of our key lime pie that I make, but I'm using fresh cream from our milk. So this is milk that we go and pick up from our local farmers, and it has some really good cream lines, and so I love to make it fresh when I can. Now, to mix the cream, it's best to do it with a really cold bowl. So that's what I did with the first bowl, was to put it into the freezer, and now I'm just skimming the top of the milk. So as you could see, that cream line was there, and the easiest way to do it is just to take a spoon and just skim the top of it. So that's how you get skimmed milk. Now in the store, skimmed milk is done through a machine, so they are really good at getting all of the fat, all of the cream out. But here we don't really have that, and that's completely fine. We still like to have a little bit of cream in our milk so that we have some good fat. Now to this cream, I'm adding some confectioner sugar or powdered sugar. This is organic. And then I'm adding in some homemade vanilla, which is super easy to make. All you do is put some vanilla beans and you cut them up and put some vodka on top and let them sit for a few months, and you have your own vanilla bean extract, and it tastes so good and really easy to make. So I'm just mixing this together, and because I already have something going in my KitchenAid mixer, I'm going to use just my handheld mixer. I almost got rid of that the other day thinking I wouldn't use it, but I still have it, thankfully. So this just takes, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. If you keep going like for 10 minutes, you would eventually get butter. And I don't think anybody wants butter with sugar in it. I don't know, maybe you do. But anyways, so I'm just creaming this together, mixing it together to make a nice fluffy whipped cream. And this is my 1-year-old, so the cream is done and she gets to lick the spoon. I always enjoyed doing that as a kid, so I'll let my kids do that too, and they seem to enjoy it the most. Now, this day I wanted some whipped cream for some strawberries, so I saved back some of it for the strawberries, and then the rest of it I just put into a storage container to put into the fridge, so I could have it already pre-made for my key lime pie on Tuesday. So this is a Sunday. I did wash these strawberries, so don't worry about that, but man, it's so good to dip strawberries into some whipped cream. Alright, so moving on to the day that we had guests, I laid out a whole chicken. This is one of the chickens that we butchered on our farm, so that was pretty cool. And I had laid it out the night before and was just going to put it in the crock pot to cook all day. I had some stuff I had to do, and so I didn't really have time to like cook it in the oven and be there for several hours and all that stuff. So I just put it in the crock pot that morning with a little bit of onions, chopped onions, some salt and oil, and just like a tad bit of water, and I put it on low. So that was super simple to get ready. And here I am starting just, I don't know, probably a couple hours before, 2 or 3 hours before our guests were supposed to arrive, and I'm making the key lime pie. So I guess it's technically not a key lime pie because I don't use key limes, I just use Persian limes, but it's really good. And the first thing that I do is make the crust, and I make an almond crust, and it is way better than any graham cracker crust if I have to choose. So it's super easy. All you have to do is add in some almond flour and butter, a little bit of powdered sugar, and you mix it together, and then you line your pan with it. And oh my goodness, you guys, it just comes out like a really nice cookie crust taste. It's so good. It's really, really good on a cheesecake as well. So if you guys want this recipe, all you have to do is sign up down below for my newsletter, and my next newsletter that goes out will have the recipe in there for you. So I'll have all the exact measurements and everything. So while the almond crust was baking in the oven, I was getting my filling ready for the lime pie, and it has some sweetened condensed milk, and I have made that from scratch before because I've had it in a can. It just, I don't know, I don't want to waste our milk on that because we really use it for a lot of other things. So this is just sweetened condensed milk, eggs, yogurt, what else is in there? Sugar, no sugar, it's in the sweetened condensed milk. Lime juice, yeah. And while I'm cooking, I either have to keep hands busy or I have little hands helping. And so my 1-year-old was helping to peel off the stickers from the limes. That kept her busy. And then the other two wanted to help juice the limes. And so, yes, this may take a little extra time, but one day when they are fully capable of making the stuff, I can give them the job and just walk away and not really have to help. So I like knowing that even though it may take a little bit longer now, in the end it will help them to learn, and I'll actually end up with a lot of help. So you just pour the key lime filling into the cooled crust, and then you're going to let it sit on the countertop for 30 minutes to an hour before you put it in the fridge, and then it needs to set for like 3 hours. So that's why I went ahead and started with that very early in the day. The next thing I made is a salad. Now, unfortunately, these vegetables were not from our garden. I've pretty much let it go this year. So we went to the farmer's market and got some fresh greens and peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, and what else up in there? Oh, some celery. Was really yummy, fresh stuff. Just chopped it all up, put it in a bowl, mixed it together, put some saran wrap on top, and placed it into the fridge. So my little helper becomes a little hindrance sometimes, and I have to eventually take everything completely off of the bar as I'm cooking. And so this is real life, you guys. Sometimes she just wants to be held, and there's nothing I can do about it, but it's super sweet to have her hugs, and it's just really funny for me to look back at this video footage because I was really getting tickled at some of the things that she was doing. It definitely doesn't make it any easier. Oh, here is a tip. So if you need softened butter, which I'm making cornbread, sweetened cornbread here, and I didn't have any softened butter. So if you don't want to like take the time to soften it and you don't want to melt it, all you have to do is put it through a cheese grater and it mixes up just fine. So I'm mixing in some butter and sugar. So no wonder this cornbread was absolutely delicious. This is not my recipe. I found it on Pinterest, so I haven't really done anything different with this recipe, so I can't claim it as my own, but it was very good, and it's really hard to change something that is really good. So there's some milk going into that, some flour, and also some cornmeal. So I like to cook my cornbread in a cast iron skillet. I don't know what it is about that. It just really makes a difference. So I buttered it up, put it in the oven to heat up before I poured in my cornbread mix. And here I'm just adding all the rest of the cornmeal into that mix, and I'm going to put it on my KitchenAid and just let it mix together with that. So I did make the kids, or I had asked the kids to run down and get some more eggs so we would have enough to make all of this stuff. But lately it's getting towards the end of summer. A lot of our chickens are molting and aren't producing as many eggs, and then our ducks aren't laying as many either. So a couple of them just went broody, and one hatched a bunch of ducklings, and so I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but they've just not been laying quite as many. We've been getting, I don't know, between 6 and 8 a day, and that's just not a whole lot for whenever you are eating eggs for breakfast as a family or making other baked goods and stuff. So I'm hoping to hatch some more chicks soon and get some more laying hens for next year. Alright, so moving on to the chicken. It was super tender, and I wanted to make some bone broth from it too. So I left the bones in there, pulled the chicken off, and put a little bit more avocado oil on there, some salt, and then some basil, and put some aluminum foil on top just to let it finish, cooling off and sit with that. And then I filled up the rest of the bones with some purified water, put some salt in there, apple cider vinegar, and put it on low back on the crock pot to simmer for the next 24 hours again. And this makes some beautiful golden bone broth. So if you have a whole chicken and you trust the source and you're okay with drinking bone broth and you like bone broth, then that is a great way to not have any waste. And the bones ended up being so soft that I didn't even have to avoid giving it to my dog, because I was able to just break them in half with just barely pinching them. So that was a really good thing. Alright, so while my cornbread was cooking, I decided to make the vegetables. And we had gotten the vegetables again from the local farm here, and it was so good. I did zucchini, tomatoes, onions, a little bit of salt, and some basil, cooked it in butter, and it was delicious. So I've really been trying to create a cozy home atmosphere, not only for guests but for my family. And typically I will have my daughters at the table. Tonight I wanted it to be just a little bit special, so we set out plates and lit candles and just had a really nice setup. And I just want people to feel loved and wanted and heard when they sit at our table. So I just want them to feel special. And so making this meal helps me to welcome others into my home and make them feel special. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new here. I do videos on homesteading, homemaking, and a holistic life, and I would love to have you around. So we'll finish this off with letting you guys see the end result for the lime pie. And again, if you want that recipe, or if you just want to be added to our newsletter, you can hit the link below that says join our newsletter, and I will be sending that out really soon. So we're just going to add this whipped cream, which was so good. It had kind of gotten a little bit runny, but that's okay. And then we just put the limes on there for decorative purposes. And I will tell you that after this night, there was absolutely no key lime pie left. Alright guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye.